Spooktober's here, and with every dusk, Eerie Instants unveils a new tale. 31 days, 31 stories. Hit subscribe and journey into the unknown with us. On the outskirts of the sleepy town of Raven's Peak, a dense forest shrouded in mist stood tall. At its edge lay an ancient, decaying cabin, a place of chilling legends. The townsfolk knew better than to venture there, especially on Halloween night. But legends had a way of tempting even the bravest souls. Emma, the daredevil of her group, had convinced her friends to join her on a Halloween night adventure they would never forget. With flashlights in hand and nervous laughter in the crisp autumn air, they approached the cabin's overgrown path. Its rotting wood and broken windows seemed to taunt them, as if daring them to step closer. "Are we seriously doing this?" Ben, Emma's best friend, muttered, his voice trembling. Emma flashed a mischievous grin. "Come on, Ben. It's just a bunch of old stories. Nothing to be afraid of." With hesitant steps, they crossed the threshold into the eerie cabin. The air inside was thick with the scent of decay, and cobwebs clung to every corner. Dust particles danced in the weak beam of their flashlights, casting ghostly shadows on the peeling wallpaper. Their small group included Sarah, the bookish one, Mike, the skeptic who never believed in superstitions, and Emma's younger brother Jake, who had reluctantly tagged along. As they ventured deeper into the cabin, they stumbled upon a room that sent shivers down their spines. In the center, they found an intricate pattern etched into the wooden floor, a hexagon with symbols and candles at its points. "Check this out." Emma's excitement was palpable. "It's like a real witch's circle." Sarah, ever the cautious one, hesitated. "We shouldn't mess with this, Emma." "What if it's real?" Mike scoffed. "Come on, it's just some old hocus pocus. Watch." He approached the circle, picked up one of the candles, and jokingly began to recite an incantation they had found online. "Abracadabra, hocus pocus, give us candy and focus." Laughter erupted from the group as Mike theatrically waved the candle. But before they could react, a gust of wind extinguished all their flashlights, plunging them into darkness. Panic set in as they fumbled to relight their flashlights. When they finally succeeded, a chilling sight awaited them. The candles around the witch's circle were now ablaze with an eerie blue flame. "That's not funny, Mike," Sarah exclaimed, her voice trembling. But Mike's face had turned ashen. "I didn't do this, guys. I swear." As the blue flames flickered and danced, a cold, otherworldly presence filled the room. The temperature plummeted, and a voice, ancient and filled with malice, echoed around them. "You dare awaken me on this accursed night?" Wide-eyed and terrified, they watched in horror as the flames coalesced into the spectral figure of a haggard, wretched witch. Her eyes glowed with an unnatural fire, and her skeletal fingers reached out toward them. Emma's heart raced as she realized the legends were true. They had awakened a vengeful witch on Halloween night, and now there was no turning back. The witch cackled with glee, and the room grew colder still. In that horrifying moment, their Halloween adventure had transformed into a nightmare beyond their darkest fears. The room echoed with the malevolent laughter of the awakened witch, her chilling cackles sending shivers down the spines of the terrified teenagers. Emma's heart raced as she stared at the sinister figure before them. The witch, her eyes gleaming with malice, raised her bony hand, and the cabin's door slammed shut, sealing their fate. Without a moment's hesitation, Emma shouted to her friends, "We need to get out of here, now!" Panic surged through her, but her determination to survive drove her forward. She darted towards the window, her friends close behind. The moonlight filtered through the thick trees outside, casting eerie shadows that seemed to come to life. As they reached the window, Emma hesitated for just a moment, glancing back at the ancient witch who was now floating above the ground, her tattered robes billowing like spectral wings. One of Emma's friends, Mark, pushed her out of the window just as the witch unleashed a burst of dark energy. The force of the explosion sent Emma tumbling through the air, crashing into the underbrush below. She groaned in pain but quickly scrambled to her feet, realizing that she had been separated from her friends. Breathing heavily, she looked around, the dense forest disorienting in the moonlight. Panic gnawed at her as she called out for her friends. Her voice echoed through the trees, but there was no response. As moments stretched into an agonizing silence, Emma had to make a choice. She couldn't stay here, vulnerable to the witch's wrath. With a heavy heart, she forced herself to move deeper into the forest, away from the cabin. She had to find help, or some way to break the curse that now bound her friends. The forest was a labyrinth of twisted trees and gnarled roots, and the darkness seemed to close in around her with every step. Strange sounds filled the air, an eerie hooting of an owl, the rustling of leaves, and distant, ghostly whispers that made her skin crawl. Suddenly, Emma stumbled upon a clearing, and in its center, an ancient, gnarled tree stood. At its base was a circle of stones, reminiscent of the witch's circle they had found in the cabin. It sent a chill down Emma's spine, realizing that the witch's influence extended far beyond the cabin's walls. Desperation gnawed at her, but she had to find a way to break the curse. She remembered the words they had foolishly recited, the very words that had summoned the witch. Her mind raced as she tried to recall the incantation, hoping there might be a counterspell hidden within it. With trembling hands, she muttered the words, her voice wavering. By shadows deep and moon's pale grace, undo this curse and seal this place. As the last syllable left her lips, a sudden gust of wind swept through the clearing, extinguishing her lantern. In the darkness, a voice whispered in her ear, soft and sinister. "Too late, child. The curse cannot be undone." Emma spun around, terror seizing her heart. The witch stood before her, her eyes glowing with malevolence. Emma's only chance at survival now lay in a desperate flight through the haunted woods, with the witch's curse nipping at her heels. As Emma fled through the haunted forest, the malevolent laughter of the witch echoed behind her. Her heart pounded in her chest, and her breath came in ragged gasps. The woods seemed to conspire against her, with branches reaching out to snag her and roots tripping her in the darkness. The spectral figure of the witch pursued her relentlessly, her ethereal form gliding just inches from Emma's trembling shoulder. The witch's voice, a chilling whisper, taunted her at every turn. "You cannot escape, child. You are mine." Despite her fear, Emma pressed on, her determination to survive driving her forward. She stumbled through thick underbrush, feeling the cold fingers of the curse tightening around her. Her friends' faces flashed before her eyes, and she knew she couldn't let their sacrifice be in vain. As the first rays of dawn broke over the horizon, Emma emerged from the woods, her body battered and bruised, her spirit broken. She had escaped the immediate clutches of the witch, but the curse still clung to her, a constant reminder of the horrors she'd witnessed. The townsfolk found her on the outskirts of Raven's Peak, a broken and traumatized girl who would never be the same again. They listened in disbelief to her harrowing tale of the witch's curse and the friends she had lost. Some dismissed it as the delusions of a traumatized mind, while others feared the cabin and the ancient evil that dwelled within. Years passed, and Emma never returned to the forest, but she could never escape the haunting memories of that Halloween night. The witch's curse had left its mark on her soul, a darkness that would never fade. And so, the legend of the Witch's Circle of Raven's Peak lived on, a cautionary tale told to the children of the town. Halloween night was no longer a time for tricks and treats, but a night to remember the horrors that lurked in the shadows. As for Emma, she carried the burden of her friend's fate with her always, a reminder of the chilling, dark end that had befallen them on that fateful Halloween night, a night that would forever haunt her dreams.